Hello, Sunim. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Um, I have a similar question. I am an addiction counselor for a nonprofit. I have been doing this for about a year and a half since I graduated college. Um, your talk last week really helped me with feelings of jealousy over salary, and you helped me realize that this is still the job that I want to do. However, I wanted to ask a follow-up question about free time, energy, and balance in my life. Um, I actually really enjoy the core parts of my job, which is working directly with other people who are in need of support. I also really like my team, which has made a big difference from the other social service jobs that I did before. I also feel like my performance is okay. However, the job is often still hard because of how it impacts my sense of freedom. Because of how long the paperwork and other bureaucratic elements take, I feel like I'm always working more than the 40 hours a week that I am paid for just to not fall behind. Um, Organizational skills have always been one of my weak points, but all of my coworkers also spend more time doing paperwork than actually helping clients. I don't know how I can ever view this aspect of the job as play. Um, Even though I love my job, it is so hard how far away I feel like I am from financial freedom. I have still been living with my parents this last year while I am saving money. Um, Sometimes I still get jealous of those who have more freedom to relax, travel, and grow. Since my job makes me so tired, I feel like I don't have enough time to uh, take care of myself, reading, exercise, or pursuing my other interests, let alone improve at my job and my career. I don't know how I can ever start a family eventually like this. It sometimes makes me feel very tired and depressed, and sometimes it gives me nightmares. I don't know how to work less or feel like I'm working less without feeling like I might be laid off or like I won't be growing fast enough in my career as expected. Um, in the past, when I have had more free time, I've been able to stay very happy by exercising and pursuing my own hobbies and interests. However, even though this job is a passion of mine, um, and the core aspects feel like play, sometimes it feels like it is too demanding, like staying on top of all of the liability stuff for the city, the state, and the federal government, and all of the paperwork. Sometimes it feels too demanding for me to stay energized and live well.
네. 지금 직업이 중독 상담사 일을 하고 있습니까?
So you're working at that job right now?
Yes.
그러면 개인으로 하고 있습니까? NGO나 이런 개인 회사에서 참여하고 있습니까? 안 그러면 정부 공무원으로서 하고 있습니까?
So are you working for yourself as an independent therapist, or are you working as part of an NGO, nonprofit, or are you a government employee?
One day I would like to do my own private practice, but right now this is a nonprofit that helps the government with criminals who are in the criminal justice system.
몇 명이 같이 합니까?
How many people do you work with?
Our caseloads are fairly high right now. During COVID, it is about 30, but before COVID, each counselor is supposed to be responsible for as many as 50 to 60 people.
근데 그 동료들 사이에 업무를 분장할 수가 없습니까? 예를 들면 행정 업무를 좀 더 전문으로 할 사람, 상담 업무를 전문으로 할 사람 이렇게 분장이 가능합니까?
Is it possible to redistribute the types of labor or work you can do with your colleagues? For example, somebody can take over the administration part of the job and others can be better at the actual counseling.
Ideally, that is how this kind of work would be done. But since our NGO, it's always struggling to have enough money. Feels like we are perpetually understaffed, and so we cannot have administrative staff.
몇 시간 근무합니까? 일합니까?
How many hours do you work?
Maybe about 50 to 65 realistically per week.
60시간, 미국 법에 60시간 못하게 안 돼 있어요?
I thought that was against the labor laws in the U.S. to work that many hours.
18시간까지 하다 지금 52시간으로 제한하고 있거든요.
Because in Korea, I think you're limited to working only 52 hours a week.
I think it is like a very similar thing to public school teachers in America, where, you know, the job pays you like you work 40 hours a week, but realistically, if you want to do the best you can, or even what you're expected to do for all of your clients, in practice, you must do a lot more in your own free time in order to meet the expectations.
네. 제가 지금 아까도 보셨지만 농사를 짓고 있습니다.
And you saw before, I'm currently farming.
네, 씨를 뿌리고 이렇게 채소를 가꾸는 건 아주 좋아하는데요.
I love, planting the seeds and harvesting vegetables.
그러면 밭을 갈고 거름을 뿌려야 합니다.
But in order to do that, you got to furrow the fields and till the fields, and you also have to apply the fertilizer.
저희들은 비료를 뿌리는 게 아니라 유기농이니까 소똥이라든지 닭똥이라든지 이런 걸 주로 많이 씁니다.
So basically, we are organic farming. Instead of chemicals for fertilizer, we use cow manure or chicken manure.
아주 냄새가 많이 나요.
It really smells.
또 옷도 버리고 옷에도 냄새가 많이 나고요.
And then you ruin your clothing because the smell kind of seeps into your clothing.
그러면 제가 당신한테 난 농사 짓기를 좋아하는데 이 소똥 뿌리고 닭똥 뿌리는 건 싫다. 이런 것만 안 하면 좋겠다. 이렇게 말하면 자기는 어떻게 저한테 조언을 하시겠어요?
So reverse our situation. Now I'm asking you a question. I say, you know what? I love farming, but that part of farming, distributing and shoveling cow manure, chicken manure, I don't like doing that. So what can I do?
I suppose you can focus on the good parts and enjoy the rewards of the overall work.
아니 다시 내가 농사 짓기를 좋아하는데 그 농사를 지으려면 반드시 소똥도 뿌리고 닭똥도 뿌려야 되는데 거름을 줘야 농사가 되는데 나는 이 소똥 닭똥 뿌리는 건 싫다. 이렇게 말하면 그래서 농사 짓기가 힘들다고 말하면 당신이 나한테 뭐라고 조언을 하시겠느냐는 거예요.
Yeah. Once again, let me ask you a question. And you are the counselor. You have to, counsel me. And my question is, I love farming, but in order to farm, I have to shovel cow manure or chicken manure. So I love farming, but this is very hard for me. So what's your advice?
I think my advice would be that every job will have hard aspects. It's easy to fall into this trap that there will always be a grass is greener view. But if this is what you feel like you were made to do, and this is the job that speaks to you the most, it would be best to work long-term on accepting the parts that are hard and learn to accept it so that you can enjoy the job as a whole and enjoy your life as a whole.
첫째, 농사 그만두면 되지 않느냐 이렇게 얘기할 수 있겠죠.
So I guess the first thing, we can propose is that you can propose to me is that quit farming.
그러면 제가 또 물을 거예요. 이거 말고 나 딴 거 할 데가 없는데요. 이거밖에 할 줄 모르는데요. 이렇게 얘기하면 또 어떻게 하겠냐.
Then if I follow up with a second question, if you tell me to quit, I can tell you back, say, but I have nothing else to do. This is what I know how to do. Then what are you going to say?
그러면 소똥 뿌리기 싫으면 소똥 쓰지 말고 그냥 화학비료 쓰면 되지 않느냐.
Then you can suggest that if you don't like dealing with cow manure, then don't use cow manure. Use a fertilizer, chemical fertilizer.
난 꼭 유기농을 해야 됩니다. 화학비료 쓰면 안 돼요.
Then I'll say, you know what? No, I have to do organic farming. I can't use chemical fertilizer.
그럼 다른 사람 보고 소똥 뿌리고 너는 다른 일 하면 되지 않느냐?
Then I say, let somebody else do the cow manure, the fertilizer piece of the work, and you don't have to do it.
나 혼자밖에 없어서 그걸 다른 사람 해줄 사람이 없어요.
Then I said, there's nobody else. I'm the only one that's farming, so I don't really have that option.
그러니까 농사를 지으려면 소똥을 뿌려야 하고, 비록 소똥 때문에 힘들어서 농사 못 짓겠다 하면 농사를 그만둬야 되는 거예요.
So basically, it comes down to two choices. If I want to keep farming, then I got to deal with cow manure. But if I find it too difficult to deal with cow manure, then I got to quit farming.
그러니까 자기는 선택이 세 가지가 있는 거예요.
So you have three choices.
첫째, 그 일을 그만두는 것.
One, quit your job.
두 번째는 역할을 분담하는 것.
Second, or redistribute labor.
일 둘 다 선택하기 어렵다면,
But if these two choices are difficult,
즉 조건이 안 된다면,
so these are conditions that cannot be met,
그 행정 업무를 기꺼이 할 수밖에 없다.
then you have no choice but to deal with the administrative duties.
상담하기 위해서 필요한 행정 업무입니다.
Because these are administrative duties that you need, they're essential so that you can actually counsel people.
만약에 이 중독자들은 이게 굉장히 조심해서 다뤄야 되는데 이게 중독자 아닌 사람을 중독자 취급을 하거나 뭐 잘못 다룰까 해서 아마 관청에서는 그거에 대한 어떤 주의사항 그런 것을 명확하게 하는 서류가 필요할 겁니다.
So I'm sure a lot of paperwork has to do with, making sure that you're dealing correctly with the liability issues involved when treating addicts, because it's a very difficult and a job that you have to engage in very carefully.
선생님들이 저한테 이런 질문을 많이 합니다.
So public school teachers actually ask me very similar questions.
자기는 아이들을 가르치는 건 재밌고 좋은데 이 행정 업무가 너무 많아서 싫다.
They tell me I love teaching kids, but there's so much paperwork involved in teaching kids, and I hate it.
근데 아이들을 가르치려면 그것이 항상 필요합니다.
But in order to be able to teach kids, paperwork always follows.
제가 농사를 지으려면 소똥, 닭똥을 꼭 풀어야 합니다.
Because if I want to farm, I got to deal with cow manure.
어떤 세 가지 중에 자기가 어떤 선택을 할 수밖에 없습니다.
So you have no choice but to make a choice among those three options.
어떻게 하시겠어요?
What will you do?
I think you're right, and I can just learn to deal with it. I guess a follow-up question is, do you have any suggestions for maybe reframing my thought process so that I can use my free time in ways that make me feel more relaxed or feel more, I guess, more productive use of my free time?
주 60시간 그러니까 40시간 일하고 한 20시간 더 집에 와서 일한다 하더라도 일주일에 150시간이 넘는데 나머지 시간 많잖아요.
Say you work 60 hours, 40 hours, and you do 20 hours paperwork, but the whole week is more than 150 hours, so there's still plenty of hours left.
왜 60시간 일하면서 시간이 부족하다고 생각해요?
So what do you think you lack for time when you only work for 60 hours a week?
I think that I have fallen into bad habits of, taking naps as soon as I get home, which has been bad for my overall sleep, or watching TV or doing other things that are very mindless when I am home.
그러니까 이렇게 자기가 이렇게 낭비하는 시간이 많아서 그러지 직장 생활 때문에 그런 건 아니라고 제가 보여집니다.
So from my perspective, what I see is that, you don't have time because you're wasting time, not just because you're working a lot.
심리적으로 나는 강박관념이 있는 거예요. 야, 나는 취미생활도 해야 되고 뭐도 해야 되고 뭐도 해야 되는데 직장 때문에 못한다 하는 이 심리적 강박관념을 갖고 있는 거지 시간이 객관적으로 부족한 건 아니에요.
So basically you have constructed a mental assumption in which the amount of work that you devote to your the amount of hours that you devote to your work is preventing you from engaging in other activities that you feel like you have to do.
운동이 부족하다면 직장까지 걸어간다든지 걸어온다든지 뭐 여러 가지 방법이 있습니다.
If you feel like you lack physical activities, then maybe you could walk to work and walk back from work. I mean, there are a lot of different options.
제가 볼 때는 두 가지인데 하나는 심리적인 쉬어야 된다, 여가를 선용해야 한다 심리적 강박관념 하나 있고요. 하나는 약간 게으름인 것 같습니다.
네, 두 번째가 뭐죠, 스님?
게으름.
So I think there are two causes. One is that I feel like you are almost, you tell yourself you have to do certain things, outside of work. And that has become an assumption or a driver for you feeling this way. And second, maybe you're lazy.
조금 더 마음을 적극적으로 내서 긍정적으로 내고 적극적으로 한번 내보세요. 괜찮을 거예요.
So I want you to try to exhibit more of a positive attitude, as you approach your situation. I think you'll be better.
약물만 중독이 되는 게 아니라 게으름도 중독 현상이 있습니다.
Because laziness or sloth is also addictive. It's not just drugs that are addictive.
네, 이 문제에 대해서 조언을 하거나 대화하실 분이 있으면 얘기해 주십시오.
Anybody who wants to comment on this topic?
I wanted to ask you, as a practitioner, how do you bring up the liking mind when you have to engage in something that you don't like to do, such as for him is a paperwork. So that was my question. Like, as a practitioner, if you are a practitioner, how do you bring yourself liking something that you don't like spreading the cow manure, such as?
그만두는 게 제일 싫으면 그만두는 게 제일 좋습니다.
Best way is to quit if you don't want to do it.
네,
But if you want to if you want to bring up the liking mind, something that you don't like to do.
네, 그만둘 수가 없으면 그러면 싫어하면서 계속 일을 하면 괴로우니까 괴로우면서 일할 거냐? 어차피 할 건데 괴롭지 않게 일할 거냐 하는 두 가지 선택이 있는 거예요.
If you can't quit the situation, you're faced with only two choices, right? One, continue to suffer to do things that you don't like doing, or change your attitude so you like to do the things that you previously didn't like doing.
그러니까 괴롭지 않게 일하고 싶다라고 하면 어차피 하는 일이니까 자꾸 긍정적으로 받아들여야 됩니다.
So, but if you don't want to suffer doing the things that you're doing, then since you have to do it anyway, try to create a positive attitude towards it.
이것이 내가 먹고 사는데 도움이 된다든지.
For example, this is helping me provide for myself.
이것이 세상에 유용하다든지.
Or this is beneficial to others.
저 같으면 농사를 지으면 이것은 운동이 된다든지.
For example, when I farm, I tell myself this is good physical exercise for people.
이렇게 긍정적인 요소를 찾아서 자꾸 받아들여야 됩니다.
So find the positive elements of it and amplify it to yourself.
다시 말씀드리지만 안 해도 되면 안 하면 되는데 안 할 수 없다면 괴롭지 않도록, 그러니까 부정적으로 보면서 하면 괴로운데, 그러니까 어차피 할 수밖에 없다면 긍정적으로 보는 것이 나에게 좋다는 거예요.
So for example, once again, if you can quit, go ahead and quit. But if you cannot quit, then instead of trying to amplify the negative aspects of it, try to find, articulate, and amplify the positive aspects of it, because that way it causes you less suffering.
수행이라는 것은 싫더라도 참고 해라 이런 게 아닙니다. 그럼 스트레스를 받습니다.
Spiritual practice is not about enduring something that you don't like, because that only causes stress.
스트레스를 받지 않는 삶이 수행의 목표예요.
Because the objective of spiritual practice is to live a life that does not subject itself to stress.
Thank you.
네.
We have some comments from YouTube. Romy has shared, it's rare to find the work you like 100%. And Jesus has shared power of positivity and active attitudes.
네. 저도 아까 말씀드렸지만 수학과 물리학을 좋아했습니다.
As I told you before, I love mathematics and physics.
나는 이 종교인이 되는 거 싫어했습니다.
I did not like religious clergy.
제가 초등학교 때 개신교에 다녔는데요.
I went to church, Protestant church, as an elementary school boy.
아주 재밌었습니다. 노래도 부르고.
And, I loved it. It was very enjoyable. We sang all the time.
근데 예수님이 그 전도사가 계속 예수님이 동정녀 마리아한테서 여자 혼자서 애를 낳았다고 계속 강조를 했어요.
However, the missionary that was teaching us, kept emphasizing the fact that Jesus was a virgin birth.
근데 뭐 혼자서 낳나 둘이서 낳나 그게 무슨 차이가 있어요?
But at the same time, I thought, what's the big difference? Big deal, whether it's a woman birthing or whether it's a couple birthing a child.
제가 볼 때 그 별로 중요한 문제 아니에요.
To me, it wasn't that important.
그다음 또 어떻게 혼자서 낳느냐 이거 별로 이해가 안 돼요.
And second, I couldn't quite understand how a virgin could give birth.
그래서 내가 그걸 어떻게 혼자서 낳았는데 하고 두세 번 물었어요.
So I asked the missionary 2 or 3 times, how could a virgin give birth?
그러니까 너 믿지 않으면 지옥 간다 그랬어요.
Then he said, if you don't believe, you'll go to hell.
그래서 제가 아니 의문이 들어서 물었는데 묻는 게 무슨 잘못이라고 지옥 간다는 말이냐.
So I was kind of flustered because I thought, I asked the question because I didn't quite understand, but so why is questioning something worth going to hell for?
그래서 제가 그만뒀어요.
So that's why I quit.
중학교를 갔는데 친구가 자꾸 절에 가자고 했어요.
So I went to junior high and a friend of mine said, do you want to go to the temple with me?
절에 갔는데 스님이 말하기를 부처님이 태어날 때부터 탁 썼다는 거예요.
So at the temple, I heard the Buddhist monk tell the story of Buddha's birth in which the baby birth, as soon as he was born, walked
그리고
7
7발자국
stood up
걸었다는 거예요.
and walked 7 steps
그걸 말을 했다는 거예요.
and talked.
그래서 어떻게 아기가 태어나자마자 설 수 있느냐고 물었어요.
So I asked, how could a just born infant stand up?
그런데 이 스님은 거기에 대해서 대답을 잘 못했어요.
And the monk could not answer me.
그래서 제가 볼 때는 이 종교인들은 이렇게 허황한 얘기를 한다. 뭐 합리적으로 얘기될 수 있는 얘기가 아니지 않느냐 생각했습니다.
So that gave me the impression that religious people, tell really unreasonable stories, fantasies.
근데 시골에서 제가 어느 날 소가 새끼를 낳는 걸 봤어요.
Then one day I saw a cow give birth to a calf.
근데 송아지가 떡 떨어지면서 섰어요.
Then the calf, it actually dropped from the mother and stood up immediately.
설 수 있네. 태어나자마자 알게 됐어요.
So that's when I realized that, a baby sometimes can stand up as soon as it's born.
그래서 봤더니 소가 어미가 서서 새끼를 낳기 때문에 그래요.
And then I saw, that's because the mother cow actually gave birth standing up.
그러면 부처님 어머니도 나무를 잡고 서서 낳기 때문에 애가 설 수 있겠다 이 생각이 들었어요.
So then I thought, the legend has it that Buddha's mother actually gave birth standing up, kind of holding herself up by the branch of a tree. So maybe that's why the baby Buddha was able to stand up.
그래서 그건 제가 만약 여성이었으면 몇 번 실험을 해봤을 거예요.
So if I actually was a woman, I probably would have experimented with my own baby several times.
그래서 제가 이 종교인이 되는 걸 제일 싫어했습니다.
That's why I hated becoming a religious clergy.
믿는 것도 별로 다가오지 않는데 그 종교인, 그 허황한 말을 하는 사람이 된다는 걸 제가 어떻게 받아들이겠습니까?
Because I had doubts about the matters of faith, first and foremost, but to be one of them that kind of teaches this fantastical stories to others, that was not me.
그런데 지금 이렇게 살고 있지 않습니까?
But now look at me, how I'm living.
지금 52년째 이렇게 살고 있어요.
And I've been doing this now for 52 years.
정말 좋아하지 않는 일이었어요.
It's a job that I did not really like.
근데 지금 생각해 보면 이것도 할 만해요.
But now that I think back, maybe this wasn't a bad choice after all.
저는 젊은이들에게 말을 합니다.
So that's why I tell the young people I meet.
난 정말 내가 싫어하는 일을 시작했다.
I said, I really started with a job I hated.
근데 지금 내가 결과로 보면 가장 선택을 잘한 거다.
But ultimately, I see that I made a pretty good choice.
근데 너희들은 왜 너희 자기가 선택해놓고 그렇게 자꾸 후회를 하고 힘들다 그러냐?
then why do you tell me that you regret and you suffer based on the choices that you have made?
그걸 왜 남에게 책임을 전가하느냐?
And why do you blame others for the choices you made?
그러니까 선택은 우리의 자유고, 그러나 그렇기 때문에 이 책임을 져야 됩니다. 결과에 대해서 수용하는 책임의식이 있어야 된다.
So we do have freedom of choice, but with freedom of choice means that you got to deal, you got to be accountable for the consequences of your choice.
선택의 어려움은 선택에 있는 게 아니고 그 결과를 책임 안 지려 하기 때문에 선택이 망설여지는 거예요.
The choices are difficult to us, not because of the choice itself, but because somehow we don't want to be accountable to the consequences of our choice.
I think you're right that when I'm out of work, I'm sort of starting to let sloth take more control over me. I think this is something that happens to me pretty often when the weather gets darker here. You're right, I should not just sit back and let it happen. I need to, if I want it to be different, I need to take action.